countdown now, Kim. As soon as I find my phone.
Oh, you just already eliminated him just because he didn't know. Okay, so are we ready? Got your
I'm ready.
headsets on?
Yep.
All right, and we are 3, 2, 1, action.
Welcome to the WalterFootball.com Fantasy Football Show. This is our Week 14 edition, joined once again by Michael Hofer. Michael, how are you?
I'm very loquacious today, unlike last week. How are you?
It's good to hear. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm also joined by Kim Calhoun. Kim, how are you this week?
Hi, Walter. I'm recovering from Thanksgiving. I think I still have that sleeping disease. So, but I'm looking forward to this week's fantasy game.
Yeah, that was an interesting Thanksgiving slate. I was actually in the running for winning it because I was second place heading into the last game, and I had Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara in one lineup, and I thought like, wow, I'm going to win this, and neither guy did anything. So
Oh,
it happens, but what can you do?
I
But
forgot about Alan Lazard this week, and I feel so ridiculous. How could he just forget? I would have won everything on your site.
yeah, I mean he had a very good game in the
Well, he's
snow.
playing the Giants.
Yeah, he had a great game. Another great matchup this week, so maybe he'll go off this time as
Yeah,
well.
he has become what I wanted Geronimo Allison, what I anticipated for him. He finally filled the void there. Thank God somebody finally has done that.
Yeah. So you just mentioned the Giants, so I think it's a good segue to one of our top stories this week, which is
Eli! He's back!
so Michael's so excited he fell down. Yeah, Daniel
I'm
Jones is
back.
out. Daniel Jones is out. He's in a walking boot, so Eli Manning will start for the against the Eagles, I should say. Maybe it could be his final start of
He's
his
going to
career.
play well. He's got all the motivation. It's perfect. He rested. He's going to play one of those Super Bowl Eli games. Meanwhile, Mr. Lazard, have you ever seen more of a photo bomber when it comes to celebrations? He's at every celebration. He sits next to Rodgers at all the meetings. That guy's a brown noser and it's paid off for him.
Yeah, he's Aaron Rodgers likes him a lot. I think he ran a wrong route one play last week, and Rodgers was pissed at him. But otherwise, he did pretty well. But yeah, with the Giants, I think Eli Manning's in an interesting spot because we just saw what Ryan Fitzpatrick did to this Eagles secondary last week, and Philadelphia secondary is in all sorts of trouble. So I don't think it's crazy to stream Eli Manning. I know it's the playoffs, but
Yeah, he's going to knock the Eagles out of the playoffs.
yeah,
Twice.
I can see-
Maybe. I don't know how long Mr. Danny Dimes will be out, though.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. So I'm one of,
Hilarious.
I made the playoffs in 4 out of my 6 leagues, and in one of the leagues, I drafted Cam Newton and Drew Brees, and both of those quarterbacks got hurt. So I've been kind of going from quarterback to quarterback. Like last week, I went with Mitchell Trubisky. Kind of,
And on Thanksgiving Day against the Lions.
Yeah,
And
and
you won. That's ridiculous.
yeah, he had a great game, and I won.
Ridiculous.
So I have a decision to make. I wonder if I should start Eli Manning, pick him up, because right now I'm going with Jared Goff.
No, you can't do that. No.
No,
Jared,
I am a
go with
Manning.
Eli. Go with Eli.
Manning.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Eli. Hopefully, no one in my league is listening and picks him up while we're broadcasting. So,
Dude, you better pick him up quickly. I grabbed him as soon as I heard the news about Danny Dimes. I grabbed him in 2 leagues where I got 5 quarterbacks. That was like a serious thing.
yeah,
I'd rather have Eli than Phillip Rivers and Derek Carr. I mean,
Right,
holy
yeah.
mother of God. And I saw Pro Football Focus or whatever it is, their top 10 quarterbacks. They had Derek Carr in the list. It's like, are you kidding me?
Well, I think Carr has a good matchup this week against Tennessee. The Titans, they lost.
They weren't talking about matchups. They were talking about top 10.
Oh,
Top 10. That's crazy. That's
no,
insane.
yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Pro Football Focus. I just don't know who wrote that or what they were thinking. But well, fantasy wise, I like Carr because the Titans have some injury issues at corner. They're already down Malcolm Butler and his backup. They're both injured, and then Adoree Jackson got hurt last week. So they're down 3 out of their top 4 cornerbacks. So I think Carr's in a nice rebound spot. I don't love Carr because he doesn't have a great ceiling, but I think Carr has a nice floor at least this week. So
Don't you think his
Carr's-
brother was better as a quarterback? He didn't last long, but
Well, yeah, I mean he took 73 sacks his first year,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was kind of an issue for him.
I'm sure
Um,
I'm sure he loves hearing that his brother was better.
Yeah. Well,
He
he's got
was.
it.
So it's just a
Liar.
fact of life, and his brother's got a great job on NFL Network, and he's a great cheerleader for the kid. So you can't complain about your older brother. No, he deserves a beat down once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's fine. He's a cushy job on TV, so yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with that. The other big news was
Ron Rivera.
yeah, exactly. Ron Rivera got fired. What are your thoughts on that?
Wrong. I mean, but it's a billionaire guy who wants to flex his muscles and be worse than Jerry Jones. He wants his own coach. He wants to do things his way. He's going to want his own quarterback. So Cam is definitely history. You know, a new broom wants to sweep the house clean. And I think Ron Rivera will be the head coach of the New York Giants next year, saving Gettleman's ass, by the way. You know, they'll make a great team there. Although, he could also end up in Atlanta, which would be a pretty cushy situation because the owner's pretty cool there. It won't be long before he gets a job. And wherever he doesn't get a job, I guess the guy who's already been fired by Jerry, even though he said, I'm sure he'll coach in the NFL next year, which means he's not. Can you ever heard an owner say something like that during the season? Oh my God.
Yeah, Jerry's not the greatest with that. I think I don't like what the Panthers owner Bobby Axelrod is doing, or I should say David Tepper. It's the same person. I think it was a big mistake to fire Ron Rivera in season. Yeah. I thought it was very disrespectful to do that. He took them to a Super Bowl. Like, granted, they didn't win, but they were going against a buzzsaw Denver defense, which is just incredible.
I disagree with the disrespectful part. I think that mutual respect thing is better than leaving a guy twisting in the wind. And actually, did you see Ron's press conference this morning? He's excited. He's excited about his new life, man. He's going to get more money. And you know, he's not going to have to deal with Cam anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he was at one point 5-3 this year, and basically 5-1 without Cam Newton, and now they're 5-7, I believe. So, you know, they're out of it, and it's a shame. But 5-5 without Cam Newton is not something that should be discarded, I think, because when Cam Newton was ruled out for the year, or basically they said he needed surgery. People wrote off the Panthers, and they had a nice comeback, and they were in the playoff mix, and they got destroyed by the Redskins last week, which is, I guess, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. But still, down your franchise quarterback, like, to be in the playoff mix at some point in November. I thought Ron Rivera did a good job, and he should have a job next year. You're mentioning the
Giants. 3 straight Southern championships. No one's ever done that. It was a different team every year. He won it 3 years in a row, and that's not easy in a division with Drew Brees. Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the Giants. I can see the Browns hiring him too if they move on.
Oh, he wouldn't go there though. He wouldn't want that job. He's going to have his pick. He's going to be able to choose between the Falcons and the Giants and the Browns and the Redskins. And I can't picture a guy in his right mind wanting to go to the Browns or the Redskins.
Well, the Browns have a lot of talent though. They just feel like if they were coached better this year, they would be maybe 7-5 right now or better.
He had a superstar as a quarterback who had all kinds of commercials at Carolina. A guy who is also maybe has a few ego problems. Now, let's go to Cleveland. It's a quarterback with ego problems who's on every commercial on TV. I think Ron's had enough of that with Cam. I don't think he wants to go with Baker. He can have Danny Dimes or he can have Matt Ryan, and I think he'd prefer that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I'd prefer them too. But I'm just saying that the Browns are just loaded with talent. Like, not just quarterback. They have 2-star receivers. They have a great.
Like the Cowboys. They're the same team. They're both loaded with talent. Too much talent. Too many ego problems. Too many problems.
Too much talent. Yeah, and plus, I guess you don't really know if Myles Garrett will play next year. I think we can assume that he'll be back. He'll get reinstated, but you don't really know that for sure. So I think that might be a deterrent as well. But I do think the Browns' job could be a good one if someone could deal with Baker Mayfield.
Did you see the T-shirts? Pittsburgh started that fight.
Yeah, I did, and it reminded me of how Dick Vermeil, the former coach of the Rams, Chiefs, and Eagles, used to talk up his opponents all the time. Like, he would have a 10-3 team, and he'd be playing a 2-11 opponent, and he would say, "Oh man, this team is so good. I don't know how we're going to beat them." So it was basically the opposite of what Freddie Kitchens is doing. Like Vermeil,
Yeah.
and kind of like Belichick too. He was talking up the Dolphins recently.
That's right.
These guys don't want to give the opponents any sort of incentive or motivation. Whereas Freddie Kitchens did the opposite. He gave the Steelers even more motivation than they should have had in the first place. So not only does he use his players incorrectly, not only does he screw up in-game decisions, he also gives his opponents motivation. So it's kind of like, 3 strikes and you're out with him. I think he needs to be fired at the end of this year. I don't see how they can justify bringing him back.
I don't know about the motivation thing. If a T-shirt, what it takes to motivate a professional, and they got a problem in the first place.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
what's
is
up
the
with
thing.
that?
What'd you say?
I said, what is up with that? You need a T-shirt to motivate people.
Well, they gave the motivation to the other team by wearing the T-shirt. So
Yeah.
that was the problem. And I mean, players do need to get motivated. And these guys make 7 figures and 8 figures. Like once you get that much money, it's hard to be motivated all the time. We see teams kind of laying eggs sometimes. So maybe 2 or 3 times a year, they just don't show up. So I do think players need to be motivated. And if you give the other team motivation, it's a big disadvantage to your team. And I just don't understand why Freddie Kitchens doesn't understand that.
I'm motivated to tell my story I should have told last week.
But
Yeah, what was you want to tell it now?
Yeah, if you don't mind. A lot of it has a little to do with football, so I might get thrown off the air after this, but I just have a compelling, I love that smile, Walt. Just this time of the year makes me think of my childhood in Wisconsin. So I'm going to reveal some things about me today and kind of give you the timeline for this Thanksgiving memory that I should have told last week, and why the Lions are so good on Thanksgiving Day. They almost won this year. So anyway, growing up in Wausau, Wisconsin in the 60s, I was born in 1957. We had nothing but cheese, cows, and the Green Bay Packers. And a little bit of national events. I mean, I was very grateful when Richard Nixon gave me the right to vote at 18 and ended the draft, so I didn't have to go to Vietnam. I thought that was pretty cool. I remember our classroom at St. Mary's. Now, this is when I started hating school. We had giant posters of Lyndon Johnson and Barry Goldwater in the back of the room, but we never talked about it. And I was all for Goldwater, and again, I got crushed with the result on that. And Sister Noreen, our principal, she told them, now, do you know what the word Olympiad means? Does anyone know?
say it again. The word what?
Olympiad. Olympiad.
Oh, Olympiad. Tell us.
Okay, it's kind of like quaternary. It means every 4 years. It's something that happens every 4 years. Sister Noreen told us about how the Greeks started the Olympics, and they held them every 4 years. But today we have them every year. And that's when I realized, I know more than my teacher. There's something wrong with this whole system. So I love snow days. And November 22nd, 1963 was a devastating day when I'm sitting in my classroom and the president had been assassinated. I was a very naive child, and I just didn't think things like that should happen. But nearly just as devastating was November 22nd, the year before, when we played the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. That is a date that'll go down in infamy in Green Bay history. Now, when I was born, the Packers sucked. And a guy was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, a very famous Nittany Lion, Milt Plum, a quarterback, defensive back, place kicker, and punter. And that year, as a rookie, which didn't happen back in those days, 4th game in the season, he became the starting quarterback, led them to the NFL championship to lose 56-14 to Tobin Rote and the Detroit Lions. Last time the Lions have won anything. Now, Milt Plum is a friend of my dad's. And if you, I haven't told you more about Milt Plum. He had an NFL passer rating of like 110 in 1960, which was phenomenal. It stood for like 39 years, or 29 years, was it? And he just progressed into being not so good, and they finally traded him to the Detroit Lions. In 1962, they started out 3-0. By the end of that season, he was replaced by Earl Morrall. He had a knee injury a few years later, was replaced by Carl Sweetan. 67 was his last year with the Lions. 68, he backed up Roman Gabriel at LA, and then he backed up Fran Tarkenton in the next year at the New York Giants, and then didn't play football anymore. But if you meet Milt Plum today, he'll say, "Hi, I'm Milt Plum. I was quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. He never mentions his Detroit years, ever. Here's why. The Packers, meanwhile, the year before, 1958, we were 110-1. And Vince Lombardi took over, and we were 7-5. Now, when he coached the Redskins, his last year before he died, it was his first year with the Redskins. He was 7-5-2. That's kind of interesting. But then the very next year, he got to the NFL Championship against the Philadelphia Eagles. Chuck Bednarik tackled Jim Taylor as the clock was running out and stayed on top of him, wouldn't let him get up. So the Eagles, that was like the last time they won anything until Nick Foles managed to get him to do it. And then Lombardi promised the team this will never happen again. And we won 5 championships in the next 7 years. No one's ever done that. Tommy's not going to do that. He's won 4 out of the last 5, but he's not going to win 2 more. It's not going to happen. It's pretty clear right now. That's not going to happen, right, Walt?
I don't know. I wouldn't doubt him.
Well, they look pretty bad against the Texans.
Well, yeah, not to interrupt the story, but they looked bad against the Jaguars last year. They looked bad against the
I
Lions.
remember.
The Lions last year. They looked bad against the Titans last year, and they looked bad against the Dolphins last year.
Yeah.
None of those teams made the playoffs. And after those losses on the road, people were doubting the Patriots. And, you know, as long as you have Belichick and Brady, I don't think you can ever count them out.
Right.
No, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, but you can't beat Father Time, and you can tell Tommy said the same, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let me finish my story. The thing that mattered, you know, we're in Vietnam. That was like something I watched on TV, but what mattered was Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers. That's what mattered in Wausau, Wisconsin. And the offensive captain was my next-door neighbor. I got to meet all the Packers and Coach Lombardi. My mom actually yelled at him, and Lombardi acquiesced. He tried to brush me off one time after a loss. He just kicked the folding chair the length of the locker room, and then I went and asked him for an autograph. He told me to buzz off. My mom started screaming at him. He called me. So he was afraid of my mom, too. He's a smart man. But, yeah, we beat the Giants the next year. What, the Giants made the playoffs like 5 out of 6 years back then. Not the playoffs, but the championship. So anyway, back then we had the greatest quarterback in the history of football, Bart Starr. If you're going by – you go by wins, right? You go by titles. You don't go by passer rating and all that. That guy won 5 titles in 7 years. He was a great leader. Jim Taylor was a maniac. He did isometrics. Very pumped up guy, had a temper. Would go out of his way to blast into people. He even led the league in rushing 1 year ahead of Jim Brown. One time, Boyd Dollar got tackled into the end zone by Mike Gector of the Cowboys, where he got hurt very badly in the play. The next year on the NFL Today, they always led with that play with Boyd going in like this. Jim Taylor wanted to go kill the guy, and Bart Starr escorted Taylor off the field while Paul Hornung said, hey, great leadership, Bart. I mean, he just knew what to do in all situations. He was just, and even on the quarterback sneak, he called that play, and he didn't tell anybody that he was going to keep the ball in the ice ball. So you can argue all you want, but Bart, dude, the big game for us was always playing Unitas. And Bart won most of those. And in 1962, we had these guys who were all young. Paul Hornung, he had 176 points in a 12-game season. One of the greatest players in the history of football. Jim Taylor, Ray Nitschke, Willie Wood, Willie Davis, Herb Ratterley, one of the greatest cover corners. So we had a pretty darn good team in 1962. We were in trouble against the Colts. We managed to win that one. Earlier in the season, the Lions were 3-0, and they're playing in Green Bay. They're winning 7-6. We had 2 field goals. Pathetic. 2 minutes left. Lions just have to kill the clock. Bill Plum calls a pass and throws an interception to Herb Adderley, where you just don't throw. And we got a field goal and won 9-7. Vince Lombardi wrote about that game in Run to Daylight in his book. That was a big deal to him. And then we did get lucky against the Colts, but other than that, we crushed everybody that year. That was the greatest year of all the Green Bay Packer years, except for one game, Thanksgiving Day. The deal with Roger Brown, Alex Karras, 11 sacks. 11 sacks. And I think the score was like 26-14. The 14 points at the end were like Chris DeMille points. But as tough as Jim Taylor was, at one point during that game, Hornung was out for that game. So Bart Starr called a sweep and wanted Tom Moore to carry the ball. And Tom said, I don't want the ball, Bart. I don't want to run it. It's so good. And he said, well, how about you, Jim? You want to run the sweep? Jim Taylor. And Bart. And they started laughing in the huddle while they're getting killed, and they got a delay of game penalty. And Lombardi's on solid. What the hell's going on around here? He was just furious, right? That's how bad they got killed. It was just horrifying. And that up until then, the Packers were always the Detroit Lions' opponent on Thanksgiving Day. And Lombardi said, "That's enough of this, right?" And he got Green Bay taken off the Thanksgiving Day schedule until like 20, 30 years later when we played them again. So if you were a Packer fan in the 60s, you just don't mess with the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. And I probably should have told that story last week, but thank God you already won money on the Lions. You went with Mitch, but you bet on the Lions, right?
Yeah, I played a lot of Mr. Trubisky, but yeah, I bet on the Lions. I spent, they call the night before Thanksgiving the biggest drinking night of the year. I was, instead of going out and drinking, I was watching every single preseason snap of David Blau, the new Lions quarterback, because no one had any film on him. And so I wanted to see if he was just a bum or if he could play well. And I was very impressed with what I saw from him. He looked like a smart quarterback who could make accurate throws. His arm is not very good, but he reminded me of Nick Mullins.
I love Nick Mullins. I like him better than Jimmy G.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument. Garoppolo makes a lot of mistakes, whereas Mullins doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't have the upside that Garoppolo does, but I think he has a higher floor. And Blau, he played exactly like I thought he would. It's a shame that the Lions didn't win, because I thought that would have been a good story for Blau winning on Thanksgiving. But it looks like he's going to be starting the rest of the year with Jeff Driscoll out for the year. And I don't.
Matt wants to come back, and I think he might.
Yeah, I could see that. I just don't know if the Lions are going to risk it. But I would love to see Blau continue to start, because he's a smart guy, and even the preseason announcers were complimenting him. The Browns analyst, they were saying like how he can see the field very well, and how he's just a smart guy overall. And so I thought that would bode well. And the reason I did so well on DraftKings at Thanksgiving is because I played a lot of Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, and they were so low owned, like no one had them in their lineups. I think Golladay was like 4% owned or 5% owned, like something ridiculously low for a 3-game slate. And so it's kind of, an example where I think research can really pay off. And if you put in the work, you can do well on DraftKings or even in regular fantasy.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. That's what I do in chess, and that's what I do in fantasy football. Hard work beats talent, beats everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that story, because I always heard that Lombardi quote. What the heck's going on out there?
Well, he said it a few times, and he's not always so clear. Okay. But that game was referred to as the Thanksgiving Day Massacre.
Okay. That's pretty cool. That's funny. Why that's the reason why he said that. But So,
well, I'm a little curious here, Walter. You said so, and by the way, Michael, I love the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remind me to tell you one of my best football day stories with my dad ever. I'll tell you guys on another day. But my dad is an avid Cowboy fan. And
how about them Cowboys?
But we're Texas family. So, but anyway, but Walter, you caught me off guard there. I didn't know that the night before Thanksgiving was the biggest drinking day of the year. We're missing out here.
That's what they call it. I was always confused by that. People always say that. I always thought it was New Year's, but apparently that's what people referred it to. That people would always go out the night.
Mardi Gras too.
Yeah, I guess in New Orleans. Obviously, if you're in New Orleans.
Well, yeah, if you're Catholic, because of Ash Wednesday, Fat Tuesday.
But
that's what you got to party.
That's what everyone used to refer to. Like when I was in college and I came home, all my friends would want to go out Wednesday night and just get trashed. And but now I'm watching David Blau highlights. So
yeah.
You grew up in 20 years, right?
Your wife has nothing to worry about.
Exactly. Yeah, she was asleep while I was watching the Blau games.
I guess there's a point there, because Thursday is a day off for most people, right? We all sit around, get lazy, and eat a lot of food that kind of takes care of a hangover. So I guess that makes sense. I mean, but, wow. That's an interesting. I know it's not football, but yeah, I guess you changed over the 20 years.
Yeah, I guess you kind of have to change. It would be little ridiculous for a 37-year-old to go out and get trashed, especially if he's married. So,
That's right.
Yeah, especially
if I were single, maybe, but
Yeah, 37 doesn't matter.
that's true. It's all about if you're married or not, I guess.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm
No.
glad everybody had a good Thanksgiving and enjoyed the football games over the
Thank God
holiday.
for football and Thanksgiving. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Yeah, if you ever have a divorce, by the way, if this ever happens to you, Walter, and you have kids, the wife gets the kids. I have 5, okay? The wife gets the kids on Thanksgiving and Christmas. You might have them and be mommy and daddy all year long. But on Thanksgiving and Christmas, you're going to be spending it alone. So thank God the gods have given us football. And, I'm fine with that. Definitely.
well, they give us 3 games now. It used to be only 2 games.
On Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I know, right? I couldn't keep up. I'm trying to cook.
Oh,
And
yeah, you asked me. And then you asked me the question about captain, and I didn't think long about it. I gave her Julian Edelman when I should have given her the quarterback.
that's all right. You know what?
Well, actually, Edelman did pretty good, but
Yeah, I just have been playing for fun, and it gave something that, I mean, my sister and I are really, really tight anyway, but doing this fantasy football has given us something else to talk about. And besides kids and family and cooking. And
Deshaun did a lot better against the Patriots than I expected. He had a fantastic game. And Edelman, despite being bracketed the entire game, still got like 87 yards. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he did pretty good. I think I picked Elderman. So,
But it's horrible that that's what Tommy has right now. Tommy's got to throw like 60-yard passes to Julian Edelman. What is he, 5'11"? He's not a guy that goes downfield to get those long passes like that. He's a guy that moves the chains. So I don't know what's up with N'Keal Harry. Maybe it's still his injury, or maybe he's just not smart enough to pick up the Patriots system. But Bill has missed on his early draft picks on the skill position, like horrifically, except for Rob Gronkowski. It's the only one I can think of.
He's drafted receivers very poorly. That's the one, blemish I think you can say that Belichick has had. Outside of maybe the cheating, I guess, but the
cheating on his wife or cheating? The
NFL cheating. I didn't even know if he was married or not, but it's I don't know. N'Keal Harry made a lot of mistakes in the Dallas game, so I don't think they wanted to play him a lot. Jacoby Myers has actually been better, but he's made mistakes.
Sony Michel's in the doghouse too.
He really is. James White had a great game. Actually, I love James White this week against the Chiefs.
He's a good player. He's a good team player, just like you.
Thanks. Yeah. James White had a monster game.
He was Gio's in high school. He played with Gio Bernard, so he's used to being a team player.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So, he had a monster game. I think the winning captain of that showdown was Duke Johnson, actually, because he was so.
How can you predict that, though, man?
That's true. It took Bill O'Brien 13 weeks to figure out that Duke Johnson is better than Carlos Hyde. So I guess better late than never. But Duke Johnson
they both suck.
Duke Johnson was so cheap that he had allowed people to get to Edelman, Brady, and Hopkins. So that's why he was the winning. What
was
captain.
Lazard's price? I completely forgot to look him up. I don't know what happened to my brain.
Well, we're talking about the showdown, but
right.
In the main slate, I forget what Lazard was. But I do have, before we get to questions in our rankings, I wanted to talk about something that happened on DraftKings, and a lot of the people, it was kind of like everyone was abuzz about it on Monday, because it was something that we've never really seen before on DraftKings. So on DraftKings, the guy who was winning the $1 million contest, his username was Carney259. He was in first place by himself. And then I don't know if I'm sure you remember this, Michael, if you were paying attention to the games last week, when the Raiders scored a garbage touchdown at the end, and then the Chiefs blocked the extra point and returned it. Yeah. So Carney259 was in first place until that play. And that play, he had two people right behind him with the same lineup, but they had the Chiefs defense. And because of that play, he dropped from first to third. So it was the difference between $1 million and 40.
Okay, let me ask you a question that's been bothering me then. Is it possible that was fixed with the guys who had the Chiefs. They were like the mafia guys. And it's okay, we need this extra point.
I don't.
That couldn't be
I
done.
don't
Maybe we better not talk about that.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Kim's got a good point. If it is fixed, then we shouldn't be talking about it. If it's not
Yeah,
fixed, then
yeah,
there's
yeah.
no point in talking about it. So,
Hey, tell you're from Philadelphia.
right. Anyway, Carney 259, he went from $1 million winnings to $40,000 winnings. So, and I was,
Breaks my heart.
it's terrible. And I was looking at his username. So I went to Central High School in Philadelphia, and because we are the second oldest high school in America, we would refer to ourselves not as like the class of 2000. We would refer ourselves to the class of 259. You know, it's 259th graduating class of Central High School. And so I knew a guy. I don't want to say his name, but it was Mike Carney something. And I was like, and he used to be really into sports. I was like, oh my God, is this Mike? Is this my friend Mike from high school? So I messaged him on Facebook. I'm like, totally random, and like
Wow.
maybe I'm way off, but was that you on DraftKings who went from first to third? And he went, yeah, that was me. And so he
Oh
told,
my gosh!
so yeah, we're gonna.
So there's something up with your class about being able to predict football.
I guess so. I wish I could be first to third.
Well, that's when you started your website too. I mean, that's your whole story is like crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny
Unbelievable.
because I started that site in my internet class in my senior year. I was sitting next to Kenny, who's our podcast co-host, and he hosts a website. But here's the funny thing: right next to Kenny was this girl Vicky, who was the sister of Mike, who got from first to third. So
Wow.
it's kind of it was interesting. But so I told Mike, I was like, I don't know if I want to congratulate you for a great lineup or to give you my condolences for losing $960,000. But he seemed to be in good spirits overall.
He still won something, right?
Yeah, 40,000. 40,000 is
Yeah,
nothing to
that's
sneeze
not
at.
chump change. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it's right. But I mean, it would be great to win 40,000 on DraftKings, but to lose, I mean, he told me he was on a flight when that was happening and he was watching it live. And yeah, it was he lost $960,000. It sucks. I don't. And he told me he didn't even want to play Monday night because he thought he couldn't handle another bad beat. But he said he said he would. I'm going to be doing a fantasy podcast with Kenny, so we're going to interview him because we were both friends with him in high school. So I'm looking forward to talking to him about it.
That's great.
invite him
Yes,
to our
yeah.
show. I would love to meet him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll talk to him about it. I don't know if this time aligns with his work schedule, but yeah, I mean, if it does, then I would love to have him on. He's always been a nice guy. He's always been a nice guy. So I'm glad to see him have success. And he's one of those guys who enters 150 lineups in every contest. And you know, he's really into football, and he was always a good math guy too. So it's not a surprise to see him do well.
Well, there you go. That's a good topic. Hey, I can even line up a TV interview with him on our other TV show.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to him about it.
yeah.
so,
Absolutely. What a cool way to bump into your old classmate, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't talked
Facebook
to
is
him in a
awesome
while.
for that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I thought it was so random to ask him that. I was like, there's no way it could be him, and it was him. He gave all the details. Like it was definitely him. So
What a cool class reunion you guys could have, right?
our 20 years in next year. So
Have you ever looked up the hot chicks from high school and see what they look like now?
That is.
Oh, I dodged a
amazing.
bullet. Facebook is awesome.
Facebook is awesome. Yeah, it's cool. You can see what people are up to for sure. So, well, do we have any questions, or do you want to move on to?
You know
Who's
what? I don't
Kathmandu?
see any. These are regular people, so they know, and nobody has any questions. I think they're just dialed in to listen.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so I'm sharing my my screen now. So
I'm gonna start arguing with you this week. It'll make for a better show. I'm gonna try.
I'm all for arguments. I mean, I think I said it before. Like PTI is the highest viewed
Yeah,
TV
you
show
told
on
me that.
ESPN.
Include me in.
Yeah, I mean,
Wolvan's a jerk.
people love arguing about sports, and that's what makes it so great. And
Skip and Shannon.
yeah, and you know, it's not like politics or anything where you don't really know who's right because you can't really see results. or I guess you can over a long haul, but you not right away. But like in sports, we can argue who's going to win a game, and then we'll see the game on Sunday, and then we'll know who's right. So like that's the cool thing about arguing about sports. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's get to the top quarterbacks this week. So Aaron Rodgers, number one,
I'm not arguing with that.
yeah, against the Redskins, who have a terrible secondary. We just saw Kyle Allen have a great game. So yeah, the Aaron Rodgers, number one. Lamar Jackson, number two. He's he has a tough matchup this week, like last week, but I think he's matchup proof. We just saw him have a great game against the 49ers, and the Bills have a similar defense. So I think Jackson will have not a great game, but a very, very good game. So I would put him number two.
He's due for a tough game, and the Bills could give him that.
I could see that. They have the athletic linebackers to hold them in check. So, I think I don't know if he's going to run for 100 yards this week. Maybe like 50 to 75. But I think I don't think he's going to get 100. Patrick Mahomes, number three against the Patriots. The Patriots just have a great defense, so I'm downgrading Mahomes a little bit. He's been a little loosey-goosey with the ball. Has made some very questionable throws.
Oh my God, it looked like Brett Favre. Yeah,
he really did, and he got away with them against the Raiders. But I don't know if that's going to work against the Patriots.
He'll tighten up for that game, I hope. But he did throw interceptions at the game. He looked terrible in the Patriot game last year, actually, in the first half.
Yeah, in the playoffs, sure. Number four, Carson Wentz. So he was the quarterback my friend Mike used in his DraftKings lineup. He actually paired Carson Wentz with Miles Sanders and Alshon Jeffrey and ran it back with Devontae Parker, which is kind of the strategy I've been talking about, how if you use a quarterback, you should pair him with two players. So if a quarterback throws a touchdown to those players, you get double the points. And then you want to run it back with a player from the other team because you want a close game to maximize because you want your quarterback to keep throwing. So
he's got Lane Johnson. That's made a huge difference.
Yeah, Lane Johnson. Carson Wentz has been very good with Lane Johnson and pretty pedestrian without him. And he's playing the Giants, who have a terrible secondary. So Carson Wentz is a great play this week. And number five, Russell Wilson against the Rams. It's a tough matchup, but you can't doubt Russell Wilson. He's going to produce. Number six, Kirk Cousins, a very easy matchup against the Lions. We just saw Mitchell Trubisky throw all over Detroit. So I think Kirk Cousins could have a great game. Number seven, Jameis Winston against the Colts. Indianapolis just has allowed some big gains to receivers over the season. And I think Jameis Winston who's thrown for 300 yards almost every single week. You should do well. Number eight, Sam Darnold against the Dolphins. Miami is just a horrible secondary. We just saw Carson Wentz throw all over them. Sam Darnold has had some good games recently. So I think Darnold could be a nice streaming option. Number nine, Jared Goff. I guess, Michael, you're going to disagree with this one. But Jared Goff, in his first matchup against Seattle, he had a great game, at least statistically. And that's what really matters. And I think there's a chance that Seattle gets out to a lead, and Jared Goff has to throw a lot. And I think that Goff could have maybe a very good fantasy day, but a poor real life day. So I think that could happen. And number 10, Dak Prescott against the Bears. I don't really love this that much, but I don't love some of the other options this week. And you can see Eli Manning creeping in at number 13. So
yeah, baby.
I might move him up a little bit. So. Who do you disagree with here outside of Goff?
Can you scroll up? Oh no. Well, yeah, scroll up a little bit. Yeah, Lamar might have trouble with the Bills. That's what I thought. And Dak, well, they've got to go back to Zeke. So I'm expecting they'll actually get that straight this week, as you pointed out. The Bears have not been very good against the run lately.
Yeah, no, they haven't. They're getting Akeem Hicks back next week, I think. It sounds like.
Wow.
So that would be huge. But Akeem Hicks is not going to play this game. So they've been much weaker against the run without him. But he's going to be enormous for them. If they win this game, which is possible, they're going to be in the playoff mix. So having Hicks is going to be huge for them. So. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the running backs.
I want to point something out. I don't know. Sometimes I look at these things kind of weird. But I was going through and doing some picks, and I was going to pick Darnold for one of them. But when I look at his name, it looks like darn old. You know, but I'm looking at if we could scroll down for a second. Goff against the
Seahawks,
The Seahawks, yeah. So, because you've got Patrick Mahomes up here, but you still think, wait a minute, Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson, and then you have Goff in there too. So I was just wondering because Goff would probably be lower, right? He'd be priced better.
I don't. I forget what price he is on
Don't
DraftKings.
do it. Don't do it. Stay away.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Uh,
Sorry.
he,
I was just looking up cheaper. Okay. I won't.
Hey
I'll listen
Walter,
to you.
what's your angle on interim coaches on the betting lines? How do they typically do their first game?
not well the first game, but then they typically do better afterward.
Okay.
So yeah.
As you mentioned, quarterbacks, the backups, they rally around them, and you're right about that. So I was wondering about the coaches.
Especially, well, it's tough their first game because the head coach is fired and he's doing a lot, so they have to shuffle everything, and there's usually a lot of chaos and no one knows what's going on. By the way, Jared Goff against Seattle, the first time they played them, 29 of 49, 395 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think he can be in the top 10. I don't think he's going to be terrible
I
necessarily.
think the Seahawks have gotten better since then. Although that game Monday night, that was a crazy game. That was like just so many busted plays on both sides.
Yeah, it really was, and it looked like the Vikings are going to win, and then they lost Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs on one play, and they also lost their left tackle, Riley Reef. So.
And I had Cook and Carson as my DFS guys, and I hated Rashad Penny, and then Cook gets hurt, and Rashad Penny, and it's Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, Shanahan, these guys, and Andy Reid, the running backs. You can't trust them.
How about Bruce Arians?
Oh yeah, Bruce Arians too. Yeah.
I
He says Ronald Jones is still the starter, but we'll see.
I had so many lineups with Ronald Jones last week in DraftKings, and I was just in misery when the other running back ran in a couple touchdowns. Those lineups would have done very well if Ronald Jones got those touchdowns. So
Yeah.
I'm not,
pass protection. You almost can't blame him for that, though. When you
Yeah.
pull pass protection, you gotta sit.
you're right, but I don't know. I think you just can't trust Ronald Jones anymore. I'm done with him.
So what's going on with Darwin Thompson? We thought he was going to be the guy all year. Maybe he finally is.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, LaShawn McCoy is kind of in load management. So Darwin Thompson could get 15 touches this week, and he's very cheap on DraftKings. So I think Darwin Thompson might be the best cheap option for running back this week, unless Dalvin Cook is out. And then I think you would just have Alexander Madison in every single lineup.
Before we get to the running backs, you told me Drew Lock sucks. He looked pretty darn good. Was that just luck or what?
Well, I mean, Drew Lock had a terrible preseason. He was just awful.
Yeah.
But I think you saw some bad things from him in the second half. Like he looked very good in the first half. Second half, he threw a bad interception. He stared down his receiver, and then a couple of times he did something that young quarterbacks tend to do a lot, where he drifts back in the pocket like 12 steps or 13 steps, and then he throws off his back foot. So he was playing just a not very good Charger defense. Against, it's a tougher matchup this week against the Texans and Romeo Cornell. I feel like Romeo Cornell could eat him for breakfast. I think Drew Lock would be in trouble. Kind of same thing with David Blau. David Blau had a nice debut, but now he's playing against Mike Zimmer. So I think that Mike Zimmer might show him some things that he hasn't seen before, and that could trick him into some interceptions.
Have you noticed the Bills' former coaches have a pretty high percentage of beating him?
Yeah, I guess so.
Even Mangini did it.
Yeah, it's weird because they usually don't have success otherwise.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Although I do like Brian Flores a lot. The Dolphins,
Yeah.
They have the worst roster I've ever seen, and yet they won 3 games because Brian Flores is just an amazing coach. I think, I'm excited to see what the Dolphins do once they get some talent on their team.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the running
That's
back.
true.
Yeah, let's get to running backs. Christian McCaffrey, the de facto number 1. I don't think you can argue that. I mean, he's just been amazing all year. Number 2, Dalvin Cook against the Lions. So I think this might be a little too high because Dalvin Cook might leave the game again. But it's a great matchup against the Detroit team that has just bad linebacker play. So I think Dalvin Cook could have a big game as a receiver out of the backfield. Number 3, Ezekiel Elliott. We talked about how bad the Bears have been against the run without Akeem Hicks, so I think Elliott should have a good game. Number 4, Saquon Barkley against the Eagles. I moved Barkley up a lot when Eli Manning was announced as the starter because Eli Manning doesn't run at all like Daniel Jones does. So those scrambles that Daniel Jones has are going to be short tosses to Saquon Barkley. So I think in a PPR format, I think Barkley could go back to where he was last year, where he catches a ton of passes. I don't think he's going to have a good rushing day. So in a standard format, I'm not as high on him. But in PPR, I think Barkley could have a very good game.
That's a great point.
Well, thanks. I've noticed that with scrambling quarterbacks, when they scramble, so maybe 5 or 6 times a game, so that's just fewer targets for everyone else. So with Eli Manning not scrambling at all, it's going to be Saquon Barkley receptions. Number 5, Alvin Kamara. So the Niners, they have a great defense, but I think one area they're weak is linebacker because Quan Alexander is out. So I think Alvin Kamara could have a nice game as a receiver out of the backfield too. Number 6, Derrick Henry. He's just running over everyone right now. Oakland has actually a good run defense. So I think it's telling that I have Henry this high. Number 7, Devontae Freeman against the Panthers. We just saw the Redskins run for 200 yards against against the Panthers. They have the worst run defense in the NFL. Freeman just seems like a great play this week. Number 8, Le'Veon Bell against the Dolphins. So Bell has been a disappointment this year. I mean, I don't think he's topped 70 rushing yards in a game this year, which is just unbelievable. But against the Dolphins, we just saw Miles Sanders.
I think that's a team, though, not Le'Veon. I think Le'Veon still has the skills.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's Adam Gase just being a terrible coach. I think Bell could have a good game, not a great game against the Dolphins. Number 9, Melvin Gordon against the Jaguars. Jacksonville's run defense is terrible. They have horrible linebacker play, but they might get Miles Jack back this week. So it'll be a slightly tougher matchup for Gordon, but he should still do very well. And then number 10, Philip Lindsay, against the Texans. I think the Texans can be beaten in the linebacking course, so I think Lindsay could have a good receiving game. So what are your thoughts on this top 10?
Well, top 10, you can't argue with it. No.
Okay.
Further on down, I'm not sure. Miles Sanders, I like him a lot. Gurley, I don't trust him because the Rams could get behind in that game. Mixon has had since the guard came back, it's made a big difference, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think Mixon's a good play this week. Cordy Glenn back, their left tackle, and then Andy Dalton actually just provides just a threat.
Sean McCoy, forget about it.
That's good management. I might drop him. So Darwin Thompson, where is he? He's right here. So if Damian Williams and Darrell Williams are ruled out, Darwin Thompson is going to move up a lot in my rankings.
Now with Geis, do the Redskins have to find out what they got, or do they already know and they're just going to keep screwing around the rest of the year?
I think they know. I think they know.
Yeah,
he's so talented.
Yeah, he is.
But they have Peterson, and these games are meaningless for them right now. So I don't think they need to run him into the ground or anything.
Good point.
Yeah, and James White's another guy I like this week against the Chiefs defense that's terrible against the run. So
yeah, he's definitely he maybe should be higher. Because who else does Tommy have to throw to?
Yeah, you know what? I think I might move him ahead of Philip Lindsay actually. I like White a lot this week. He actually doesn't carry. He used to not carry the ball very much, but last week he actually ran quite a bit. So I think that could continue. All right, let's go to receivers. So
Rashad Penny needs to die. He killed my lineups.
He was the winning captain Monday night.
Oh jeez. And it started out so well with Carson.
I know.
It looked so good in the beginning. Carson and Cook, every play is for my team. And disaster strikes everywhere.
During that game, I was talking to my friend about the game, about DraftKings specifically about the game. And as soon as Chris Carson got hurt, I'm like, man, anyone who has Rashad Penny right now is going to be winning money tonight.
Well, Carson got hurt too. I didn't know that. I thought it was just Pete Carroll. So both Carson and Cook, it's my fault.
No, Chris.
It's because I picked both. You got me playing DFS. This was the first time, and I go with Carson and Cook, so I killed them. It's just like in my friends and family league. Whoever I pick first every year is like the Madden. It's worse than the Madden curse. So you can blame me for that. I got both those guys hurt.
Yeah, Chris Carson got hurt early in the game. He came back later, but
Yeah,
he missed 2 or 3 drives, I think.
yeah,
So it was the Rashad Penny show for a while, and
yeah.
then they kind of split touches. So all right, let's go to receivers. Michael Thomas, the factor number one. It's a tough matchup, but I think Michael Thomas is matchup proof. He's just so good.
Yeah, I agree there.
Okay, number two, DJ Moore against the Falcons, who can't
He's been
cover anyone.
amazing.
Yeah, his route running is just unbelievable.
Imagine when he has a quarterback.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I love Moore. He's getting better every week. Number three, Tyreek Hill against
You
the
can
Patriots.
drop him.
Really?
Bill will
Because
take him up. Bill will take him up.
Bill Belichick has not had success taking out Tyreek Hill. In every game the Chiefs have played against the Patriots, Tyreek Hill has just gone nuts. So I don't.
Because
think
I looked at you having Kelsey number one, and I'm thinking, who do you want to hurt you? You know, Kelsey. You'd rather let Kelsey have the ball than let that guy get loose. So that's my prediction. Tyreek will not do well.
Okay, I mean you could definitely be right, but I mean I don't think it's possible to shut down Tyreek Hill. You know, it just he's burned them every single time he's played against them. Stephon Gilmore's not going to shadow him because Tyreek Hill is going to move all around the field, and you know Gilmore will be on him sometimes, but I don't think it'll be possible for Gilmore to shadow him. So Tyreek Hill is going to have some good matchups. Andy Reid will put him in some good situations. So, and I don't think there's any doubting that Tyreek Hill has the highest ceiling of any receiver in fantasy. He can get 180 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns like in a blink of an eye. Like he's so good. So I will be playing Tyreek Hill on DraftKings depending on what the ownership is. If ownership is low on him because it's a perceived tough matchup, I think there will be definitely a good reason to go to Tyreek Hill. But I could see you being right, Michael, for sure.
One catch for 42 yards. That was it in the playoffs.
In the playoffs,
He shut him out in that game.
He did,
Good play.
but the previous game, he was the winning captain in the showdown slate. So
Yeah, well, they learned their lesson.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I could see Andy Reid countering with some ways to get him open. But anyway, so let's move on. Number 4, Alshon Jeffrey. He's finally healthy, and he has a great matchup this week. He went nuts last week. He was in the top 3 lineups in the $1 Million Maker on DraftKings. He's finally healthy, so I think that's the big takeaway, and he has a great matchup. Number 5, Kenny Galladay. I like David Blau. I don't know about Blau against Mike Zimmer, but I do know Kenny Galladay against Xavier Rhodes, and Xavier Rhodes can't run at all right now. He has to be dealing with some sort of injury. So I love Kenny Galladay this week. Probably will be low owned if I were to guess. I haven't seen ownership yet, but I think he's going to be low owned. Number 6, Chris Godwin. So it's always, is it going to be Chris Godwin? Is it going to be Mike Evans?
How do you make that decision? I'm curious.
I made the decision because the Colts play a zone defense, which means they want to keep everything in front of them. So Godwin is sort of that sort of guy who will catch shorter passes. And I think his reception count will be higher this week. Whereas, Mike Evans has done well against man, because he'll catch deep passes. So that's where I'm going with Godwin.
See, you always give good answers on that, which is why you should be playing IDPs. You're brilliant when it comes to the defenders, and then you don't take advantage of it. I mean, seriously, you always have a good reason for that.
It's I don't know. I think it's too much work to play IDP. I don't know. I'm
you do the work anyway. You should profit from it. You do more work on IDPs than anybody plays IDPs. You do. Because you're always giving me these matchup things.
What is IDP?
It's what you're doing in our league with the defensive players when you forget to start your linebacker. We also had, most fantasy leagues don't have defensive players. They have total defenses. But in our league, the league you're in with me, Kim, we have the defensive lineman, which is always a defensive end for me, not a defensive tackle. We have the defensive backs, which I always take a safety, not a cornerback, because that's a little different, Walter. With the safeties, you can count on the tackles. Some of these guys take quarterbacks, and they take a weak guy because he's going to get a lot of tackles because they throw on him. No, I don't rely on that. So, quarterbacks are like worthless in my league, the way I look at it. And then you got the linebackers, which are the meat and potatoes because they get a lot of tackles. So, IDP's individual defensive players, Kim. That's why you consider our league so complicated, because we have a 40-man roster.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So most like you said, Michael, most fantasy leagues have total team defenses, kind of like DraftKings. DraftKings, you won't be drafting individual defensive players.
And that's always random. It's hard to predict.
You know what? I wish, and I guess my friend Michael would, from high school, would agree with me that defenses should be abolished in DraftKings because
Yeah, it's like kickers.
he lost because of the Chiefs defense scoring the points. It sucks. Something I wish DraftKings would do as an aside, I wish they would go to 2 flexes instead of a defense. I think that would be
Oh
way
my
more
God.
or something that would even be more interesting is if they go 2 quarterbacks. Because
Yeah, I like that.
you can have 2 game stacks going on at the same time if you have 2 quarterbacks. I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I totally endorse that because we start 3 quarterbacks in our league. It's only 8 guys in the league, but it makes it really exciting. It does.
Yeah, I would love to see that. It's way more interesting than defense because that's so random. It's who scores the defensive touchdown. Like that's all it is. And you can sort of maybe try to predict that with pressure. Whoever gets the pressure gets the sacks. Whoever gets the sacks maybe gets the fumbles. Whoever maybe gets the fumbles maybe gets the defensive touchdowns. So that's how that works. But it's so difficult to predict. So I'd rather them go to second quarterback. Maybe even second flex. Anything but a defense. I hate that.
Walter, maybe you can set yours up to do that.
Yeah, well, maybe we could do a second quarterback. That'd be cool. We don't run defense in our contest.
No, you don't.
Right.
You're right about that. You don't do that. But that set the example. If you want them to start doing it.
I'll talk to Dennis, who kind of designed the contest. He's our web developer, so I'm going to talk to him this offseason about adding a second quarterback. I think that would be cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like in our league. In a normal league, nobody's going to take Danny Dimes as their quarterback. But in our league with the 3 quarterbacks, everybody was going for Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, and I took Danny Dimes, and I was very thrilled to do that, and it made him very relevant. He's done really well this year. So
yeah.
That's what I like about it. It makes you more aware. When you have a deep league, it makes you more aware of the guys that make a difference actually in the DFSs too. The guys
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, DFS, you have to look at everyone. So I like that. All right, anyway, back to the rankings. So Godwin was 6. Devontae Adams, number 7. Quentin Dunbar is a very good cornerback, but I love Adams. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good game. So, I mean, he's the number 1 target by far. Number 8, Julian Edelman against the Chiefs. The Chiefs they're good on the outside at cornerback, but in the slot they're not so good. So I think Edelman could have a good game.
They're going to give him Edelman. If they're going to try to stop somebody, it's going to be Kelsey and Hill. Well, I just said it backwards. I'm dumb. Oh my God.
No,
who else are you going to stop with the Patriots? So, you know what?
Yeah, but
can't really stop anybody though, can they?
Yeah, the Chiefs can't stop anyone. So, all right, number 9, Cooper Kupp against the Seahawks. Sort of the same thing. Seattle not very good at defending the slot, so I think Kupp could have a nice game. And then number 10, Keenan Allen against the Jaguars. So AJ Bouye is not going to follow Keenan Allen into the slot, so Keenan Allen should have a nice game. And then I want to add on Adam Thielen, number 11. We don't know if he's going to play, but he has a fantastic matchup if he does. Justin Coleman, the slot cornerback for the Lions, has allowed the most yards and the most touchdowns to receivers this year. So Thielen has a phenomenal.
What a stat.
Yeah, Thielen has a phenomenal matchup, and if I see him practicing fully late in the week, I will bump him up a lot. He might be number 4 by the time it's all said and done, maybe even number 3. So, Michael, what are your thoughts in the top 10? You already talked about Tyreek Hill.
I don't like your picks 52 through 54. They're insane.
I'm curious to see what they are. I have no idea.
I mean, I looked at it. I said, what are you thinking here? 52. It's like 3 in a row. It's like, I don't know what you were doing at that time, but you had 3 picks in a row. They're insane. Okay, Scary Terry. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah, and Juju, he's not.
We lost Michael, I think.
He got so excited we lost him. I think his energy is too much for the network.
Michael was so excited about this. His internet went out. So,
Yeah, no, I think he puts out so much energy it shuts him down because this happens every time he gets this excited.
there
So
has to be a
tell me a
connection.
little bit about you probably know Michael well enough to know what was he talking about with Terry Scary?
Well, Scary Terry. It's kind of
Scary.
it's a reference from Rick and Morty. So Terry McLaurin is he's a phenomenal talent. The problem is that he's going to be playing against Jair Alexander, the Packers' #1 cornerback, and also he's going to have to deal. Michael's back. I was trying.
Darius Slayton will be a top 10 receiver this week.
Darius Slayton.
Yeah, that one, book it.
Okay, it's fair.
Terry who?
Darius Slayton.
Darius
Okay.
Slayton. Yeah. So I was counting on Golden Tate coming back and Evan Ingram coming back, but you know what? I did not make the adjustment for Eli Manning. When I was talking earlier about
There you
how
go.
the targets would increase because
Yeah.
Eli Manning's not going to scramble. So Slayton's not someone I moved up in the wake of that.
Yeah.
So,
He needs to be 152, man.
yeah. I'll definitely move up all the Giants receivers. So you were talking about Scary Terry and Juju Smith-Schuster. Do you want to?
Well, Juju, I don't think it's going to be playing, so he won't be 54. He'll be nothing. Scary Terry's just Scary Terry. You can't count that guy out.
No,
And the reason I made the decision on Slayton was because I've been following your advice on Anthony Miller, and I actually picked him up and actually was starting him. I thought, no, not over against the Eagles. No, come on, man. So I went with Slayton instead of Anthony Miller because, well, Eli's better than Mitch Trubisky even.
Yeah, I agree. With McLaurin, I have two problems there. Number one is he's going to have to play against Jair Alexander, who's shut down some receivers this year. Number two, he's dealing with Dwayne Haskins' incompetence, and Haskins is just not a good quarterback. So McLaurin his production has dropped off recently. He was better with Case Keenum, but he hasn't produced nearly as well with Haskins. So those are two issues I have with McLaurin.
The guy is figuring out how to do the victory formation. He'll get this down.
We'll see.
Yeah, Kim. They had to kill the clock, and he was with the fans on the sideline doing a selfie, and they didn't even have him for the last play of the game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
The ultimate rookie.
And I'm telling you, when you're on the sidelines and on the field, your mind has to be all in the game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know you need.
And that's
to
been
love
the
your
knock on that
fans.
guy from the start.
Right. You need to love your fans, but I am a firm believer that when you're in the game, your head needs to be in the game. You're not out here doing selfies or, you need to be in the game.
Yeah, when we were kids, we used to go to Tampa Stadium, and my friend would scream at the Bucks and call them bad names and tell them what bums they were on the sideline, and they ignored him. And I always wondered about that, but I understand now. I mean, that could be a bad situation. But yeah, they're supposed to pretty much ignore the fans if they're real football players.
Well, you do it until after the game or at halftime, right? When your head doesn't have to be in the game and you're walking off the field, you can say hi to the fans, like everyone's, and after the game, right? But your head needs to be. What do you think, Walter? I think their head needs to be in the game. So
Yeah, not even halftime because halftime is so short. So I think it has to be after the game. You always see John Gruden when the Raiders win. After the game, he always goes around and high fives everyone.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's really cool. But Gruden wouldn't do that with several seconds left on the clock. So
such a ham.
Yeah. So yeah.
Every time something goes wrong, he's making faces too, probably just to get on camera.
Yeah, I can't get enough of those Gruden faces. But before we go to tight ends, I looked up Juju Smith-Schuster's recent report, and he said he considers himself week to week, but he just ran for the first time. So, you're probably right that he won't play. I just have him here. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but are the prices in my contest on the site walterfootball.com? They're tied to my rankings. So if I don't, if I don't set Juju Smith-Schuster with any points, he'll be minimum salary.
Your scores didn't refresh Monday night either, and they still haven't refreshed up to this point, so I don't even know where I finished. But that was irritating.
Oh, Really? I thought they were
Yeah.
I thought they were refreshed.
Well, they didn't on my screen. I kept trying to get it. I was stuck at 106, and I had Carson and Cook, and I was thinking, hey, I got a chance to win this. And then, you know, then all the frustration started. I couldn't get the score, and then the guys get hurt. It's like I cursed
Um, I'll have to look into that.
them. Yeah, please do,
I
please
don't,
do,
I
because
don't,
I really enjoyed that until Monday night.
yeah, I have to ask Dennis about it. It should refresh. I don't understand why it wouldn't. So anyway,
They
let's
did on
get,
Sunday, but they didn't on Monday night.
yeah, it's weird. It should do it. Let's get to tight ends. Number one, Darren Waller against the Titans. Titans can't stop tight ends at all, and I think this is going to be a get right game for Derek Carr and a must win for the Raiders. Number two, Derek.
No,
No,
Carr,
what?
come on, man. And the Titans, they got a chance to win first place. That ain't happening.
I think the Raiders win this week.
Mm.
I'm going to be betting heavily on it too. So
Oh wow. Well, I wish you luck then, my friend.
thank you. Uh, all right, number two, Travis Kelce against the Patriots. So the Patriots are strong everywhere on defense. They allow a negative 40% difference to receivers, but only a negative 10% difference to tight ends. So it's kind of
Called the middling against tight ends, so I take that to the bank.
yeah. So and Kelce obviously super talented. So I think he's a play. Number three, George Kittle against the Saints. Saints are same thing. I love the Saints defense, but they're weak to tight ends. So Kittle.
George Kittle is an animal, and he was responsible for that great run by Mostert, who really did a great job of finishing it off. But George Kittle just makes such a big difference for those running backs.
Yeah,
He's a real man.
they're a different team with Kittle. You
Yeah.
see it. I mean, they lost that Monday night game to Seattle without him, and then they
Yeah.
almost lost to Arizona without him. Then he
Yeah.
came back and just has been a monster ever since.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, number four, Zach Ertz against the Giants. Zach Ertz was injured last week, so he didn't get the normal number of targets, but I think he'll be healthier. And then, yeah, you have him against the Giants linebacking core that hasn't covered tight ends well in years. So. Number five, Hunter Henry. Already talked about Jaguars linebackers, and their safeties are just as bad. So Hunter Henry should do well. Number six, Jack Doyle against the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers allow big games to tight ends, and Eric Ebron's out, so you don't have to worry about him
Yep.
stealing targets from Doyle. Number seven, Ryan Griffin against the Dolphins. So the Dolphins can't defend the middle of the field or any part of the field. So Ryan Griffin should do well. Number eight, Mark Andrews against the Bills. I don't love this matchup for Andrews, but he can always score a touchdown. He's Lamar Jackson's favorite target. Number nine, Dallas Goedert. Same reason as Zach Ertz. Goddard and Ertz are on the field at the same time. And then number 10, Evan Ingram. We don't know if he's going to play. So if he doesn't play, he'll move down, and then Tyler Higbee will move up. Higbee was in the I guess the top three lineup for DraftKings. He just had a monster game.
Yep.
He won't have as good of a game this week because Arizona is far and away the worst team against the tight ends. But Seattle's not good against the tight ends either. So Higbee should do well. So what are your thoughts on this top 10, Michael?
Well, Higbee defends on Everett, but Everett will probably still be out. And I like that you got Gesicki up there finally too. And Jacob Hollister, a good guy. He's probably you got the tight ends down. You did a good job there.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. All right, so that's it for this.
So you guys are going to have a special guest next week, and
Do we know who it is?
yeah, I do. No,
You're not going to tell us?
no, you'll recognize him.
Dick Talavita.
Talavera.
Okay, cool.
So, and if I get the opportunity, I'll definitely dial in, and maybe have some extra guests from where I'm at. I'm going to be down visiting some NFL wives, so
Okay.
so I'm excited about that. They're pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, no, Walter, thank you. This has been fun.
And thanks to our millions and millions of fans out there at IBM TV.
Yeah, and I think real soon we're going to start live streaming, so this will be exciting too.
Cool.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So yeah, you can go to walterfootball.com for updated fantasy football rankings throughout the week. NFL picks against the spread. We updated our 2020 NFL mock draft today. We also have a 2021 NFL mock draft with Trevor Lawrence on top of that one. And we have a free fantasy football contest that we do every single week. So yeah, it's free to enter, and grand prize is $150. So
I know it's fun to play.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you want to know a little bit more about Walter and the food he likes to eat, and all the great people, and to me, some of the funny phrases that he
He's hilarious.
catches
Thanks.
is hilarious. Also, the jerk of the week story
yeah.
is a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely. Thank you, Walter.
Awesome,
Go ahead.
awesome, guys. So yeah, let us know who you're using in your fantasy contest this week, or if you're in the fantasy playoffs in your league. Let us know how you do, or if you don't do well, let us know why that happened. So otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Here.
It's valuable advice you shouldn't have given away, man. We should share that privately. This is anybody who's involved in daily. If they aren't listening to Walter, then they're really missing out. And it's an honor to work with you guys.
And here
It's a lot of fun.
I am just having the time of my life, and I need to listen more, and I am. But I also, I'm gonna text you before I make my next.
Absolutely.
Get the captain right this time. But no, this is a lot of fun, and I've learned so much. And thank you for explaining how all of that works.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
means, even though I didn't win anything, I felt like I gained so much just in
Yeah.
understanding what's going on and what you guys are doing when you're watching football all day long. It's not just about the game, right?
It's compelling, dude.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
theater. There's nothing like it.
so much analytics involved.
Yeah, yeah.
It is just mind-boggling, but fun. But before we go, I want to thank our viewers who dialed in and ask them if they have any questions or pointers, or if they, want to just say anything. I'll be more than happy to unmute anyone.
Give us your honest opinion of Walter's book after the flight.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely. We'll
Think
do
how
that.
much smarter you're going to be after that.
One last question for me. This is from Luke.
Okay.
Let's see if we can pull this
Oh,
up.
yeah. Should he play Austin Hooper if Matt Schaub's playing? That's a great
Right.
question.
So should I still put Austin Hooper in my lineup even if his quarterback is injured and doesn't?
Matt Schaub. Matt
Dude.
Schaub.
I'm thinking about the starting Darren Waller ahead of him in that case. And yeah, I've had that written down here. So yeah.
I would play Waller over Hooper. I don't think Hooper's a bad play if Matt Schaub is starting because Schaub is going to have to throw shorter passes. But what you're going to give up with Schaub is potential touchdowns, because they might have like one drive at the end, or maybe two drives in the fourth quarter where they get toward the red zone. But
Well, Schaub throw touchdowns for his team or the other team?
that's true. That's true. So Hooper, who I had at he's number 2. If Matt Schaub starts, Hooper probably dropped to like number 10 around there. So I would have Waller ahead a little bit over Hooper. Again, like, it's not a good matchup, but they use Waller as like a receiver sometimes. So it's not like they're just going to take away a tight end again. Like, he's just so talented that, and he's their primary receiver. So I would start Waller over Hooper. But, obviously you want to pay attention to the injury report. So.
So, and pay close attention to that before the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if you do, like with David Johnson, you never know what's going to happen. So it's always a risk, but usually the quarterback's not going to be sidelined after one play. I've never seen that happen before. That would be remarkable. But yeah, so if Matt Ryan is announced as playing, then fire Hooper up. If not, then I would start Waller. So that's what I think about that. But it'd still be close.
Yeah, that's
Brilliant, Walter, and thank you to our millions and millions of fans watching on IBM TV.
Well,
Thank
thank you, Luke, for the great and wonderful questions, and all the other people who dialed in. Wait, we got something else. That's a good.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke. We thoroughly enjoy the fact that you are dialing in, and we look
Absolutely.
forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. So, yeah, that's it for this week. You can go to walterfootball.com. I'm going to have updated fantasy rankings every single day. We have NFL picks, 2020 NFL mock draft. So, lots of content. And the book, please, if you want to support the site, a safety and a field goal, it's available on Amazon. Check that out if you can. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week. And for everyone listening, just what do you think? Who are you going to play in DraftKings? Who are you going to play in your year long leagues? Just let us know. If you have any sleepers that we missed, for sure, let us know in the comments. And otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, you guys can always post on Facebook too, and Walter does answer
Yeah.
those posts.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you very much.
Love you guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks, guys.